Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Celtic Down Under weekend review. My name is Anthony Maguire. I'm joined this week with Paul Massey and Sean. What is your surname, Sean? Connolly. I had a mental
Connolly.
blank. I had a mental blank for 2 seconds. Sean Connolly, as we digest Celtic 2 Hearts 0 took place on Saturday afternoon. Celtic part-time. I'm back from my summer holidays, 2 weeks in Italy, 37 degrees every day, sweating my absolute ring out, but that was a very good trip. Got to get up and close and personal at the Monza Italian Grand Prix, which was fantastic. So good to get away and also great to be back talking all things Celtic. Paul, boozy afternoon on Saturday before the game, I believe.
It sounds like it's becoming a trend. Well, no, it's a beautiful day here. First great weekend of spring.
It was.
I think we had 25, 26 degrees. And I was due to go to a gig down in Fremantle on Saturday night. So Mrs. and I took the opportunity to enjoy the sunshine in a beer garden, not too far from our front door, and had a few beverages and a bit of food in the afternoon before, ducking down to Fremantle Arts Centre to see local up-and-comers, Old Mervs. So that would have been their biggest headline show. Fremantle Arts Centre is a pretty good venue, nice open amphitheatre style. So that was good. Gig finished pretty much on kickoff, which was well timed. Celtic TV obviously had other ideas in the back of an Uber on the way back here. I've watched the match a few times in different formats and at different orders. But looking forward to chatting it and ultimately a good result.
Sean, how was your weekend?
I was thinking about going to Monza, but I just took a deck chair down to that junction where the freeway meets Canning Highway and just sat there and watched the chaos there instead. People with signs, homeless, help us. I think it was a pretty similar experience, to be honest. Apart from that, pretty chill. It's hot again, man. It's like just straight from summer to winter, winter to summer. There's just no transition period. I was refereeing this weekend and it was so hot. It's just like people drink straight back into drinks breaks after just getting rained on all summer. But that's it. Apart from that, not much else remarkable.
Well, you've applied the factor 50, Sean, because you're looking pretty pale, so that's good. I forgot to do that to the back of my legs in the garden for the last 2 days, so that's fantastic. But
rookie,
the garden looks great. Anyway, moving on. Obviously, yes. The elephant in the room, Celtic TV, Celtic Football Club. You need to sort it out because that experience was shocking. I mean, to have the feed cut out, I think, on 4 separate occasions during 90 minutes of play. The most important one being it cutting out right as the referee awarded a penalty to Hearts. So that was a very frustrating 3 or 4 minutes with no screen. So anyway, we'll obviously touch on the actual incident itself as we break down the game. But I'll be critical of our club when we need to be, and we need to be critical of that because how they're treating international supporters who can't obviously be at the game, paying a premium subscription. I think you were saying this, Sean, $30 a month, $35 Australian a month.
It's more than that. So, like I said, there's 2 tiers of subscription, and it doesn't even tell you what the difference between them is. It just lists them as there's £15 a month, which is $30, and then there's £22 a month, which is $44, and it doesn't say what the difference. What you received.
I think previously the difference I think was the one was HD and the other was standard, whatever. But I mean, if it constantly breaks up, you're not going to get a HD quality stream anyway. So like it kind of defeats the purpose. But look, I'm sorry to start with a bit of a gripe, but need to get that one off my chest because that did. As much as the game was frustrating at times, having it cut in and out added to the frustration. And I actually was sitting there sober watching the match as well. So I could even, blame alcohol on that one. Strange Love the Doctor. Good day, fellas. Good day to you, sir. Thank you for joining us live. If you have any comments on the game, please get them in the comment section and we'll bring them up as we go along. Just as I say, he's brought some about Formula One, but I might save that for a bit later. So obviously I'm across the 2 games that happened while I was away. On top of that, we had the situation that when I left, Matt O'Reilly was still a Celtic player. I'll come back, and we've got Arnie Engels, Austin Trusty, and Luke
McCowan, yeah.
McCowan, yeah. So obviously great inclusions. I really feel we'll get into it, but obviously Arnie Engels definitely looking like an equivalent signing to Matt O'Reilly, if not potential to go further, step up. And usually the Celtic mantra is to sell a player like Matt O'Reilly and bring in the next project, as it were. But definitely seems to be positive days. It's fairly early days, obviously, but in the sort of glimpse and performances that I've seen, that's definitely a positive. So obviously we went into the Hearts game after the back of an international break. I'm not going to talk about Scotland because that was just pathetic. Steve Clark and oh god, my memory's gone today. The Aussie coach Graham Arnold, they can both sit in the brew queue or the dole queue, depending what part of the world you're in, and look for new jobs. As far as I'm concerned, I'm done with both of them. But anyway, I'm not going to get sidetracked on that one. But basically, taking on Hearts at home, they're struggling massively. They're near the bottom of the table. We're near the bottom of the table when we took them on. We're coming back off the international break, players coming and going. Sean, I'll start with you, Sean. How are you feeling during the game? Hearts usually a sticky fixture, regardless of how they're traveling, how we're traveling. They obviously, the quote unquote diet hands. How are you feeling going into the game?
Yeah, I'd built up some false confidence based on our start to the season, and it turns out it was false in a sense. I mean, I guess we did win 2-0, but we were not anywhere near the levels of intensity and slickness that we've had over the last few weeks. So it was a bit of a bring us back down to earth. We looked like half of our players had been traveling around the world. We looked like half of our players had their eye on the next game. We're assuming this game was already won. Hearts are just abject at the moment, but the one thing that Stephen Naismith, and he showed it again, knows how to do is set up a low block counter attack set piece tactics that may work is the most effective potential way to get points against Celtic, and we had to suffer that, and we were reminded that if we don't get that early goal, this is how games can go.
Yeah, Sean, I think this was the flip side of the coin. When you don't score the early goal, this is what we've got to look forward to in a league game situation if teams decide to sort of play that low block and sit in. Paul, changes from the Celtic Rangers game, the one main change, or the only change being Paulo Bernardo making way for Arnie. Do you think that was a wee bit hard done by there? Because I thought Paulo was probably close to being man of the match against the Huns.
Well, he was my man of the match. And so, yeah, in isolation, he is a bit hard done by. But then Engels comes in, you've spent 11 million on him, he comes in and he has an absolutely brilliant game. So the other thing is, there's going to be a lot of games this season. Obviously, we're going into the first week of two games a week. There'll be plenty of opportunities. I think Bernardo got best part of 35 minutes by the time you added on minutes. There'll be plenty of game minutes for him. And I don't think it will, I think that we will rotate through the midfield as we play the games we do. I think McCowan will get plenty of minutes as well over the course of the season. So yeah, on the face of it, a little bit hard done by, but it's horses for courses, as the old phrase goes. And I think the team, for me, that was not a huge surprise. The main, not surprises, but sort of pleasing things were that both players that we'd seen injured were back. Obviously, last time we saw Cameron Carter-Vickers, he was in a moon boot, and he was obviously fit enough to play, and he played very well. Obviously, Ali Johnson got taken off as a precaution. And of the two, he's the one that I thought potentially we might rest and bring Ralston in, obviously with such a big game coming up on Wednesday, but obviously he was deemed fit enough to play. And again, he had a good game as well. So, lineup, pretty happy with the lineup. And yeah, I would say I was very confident before kickoff as well. as we should be, given the form we'd been in and the form they'd been in. And yeah, look, they set up to frustrate, and they kind of achieved that. To be fair, we had a hatful of chances first half, and take any one of them, and the game looks a bit different. But we don't, and it becomes a bit of a slog. Albeit that we eventually get the opener quite early in the second half, and even though it was only 1-0, I never really thought we were in too much trouble.
If I'm led to believe, Bernardo played the most international minutes of all the midfielders we had, so it might be that
as well.
To it, yeah. I don't think Hatate played.
He didn't.
No.
Engels played like 15 minutes or something because he was suspended for the second Belgian game.
Suspended for the second one, yeah.
So McGregor is retired now. So Endon McCowan wasn't called up. So I wonder if that factored into it as well.
No, that's the fair point, Sean. And the other thing I was just trying to say is that Rio Hatate flew halfway around the world to top up his frequent flyer miles because he didn't even get on the he didn't get off the bench, but was he even on the bench for one of the games? He was even left out.
That's a good question.
It basically got no minutes for 2 games, and it's like, and he's come out and said, "Oh, obviously I'm not good enough," and it's like, come on. Presumably Brendan Rodgers would have wrapped his arms around him the minute he got back to Celtic Park and said, "You're plenty good enough, like it will happen." But funny things with international managers at the moment, they're on the nose with a lot of me at the moment. They're all Maesh is saying here he thinks Arnish should have gone after the last cup. I agree. And then he's given Celtic TV the benefit of the doubt, saying that it was early days. But surely showing a couple of extra servers wouldn't have gone amiss.
This is not a new problem.
No, this has been an ongoing issue,
especially when you come out with the all singing, all dancing beta new version, beta max, but and it's to pick on that point one more time. Like, it is the season ticket for overseas fans. It's the equivalent of your season ticket, and it's it's the equivalent of somebody putting your jacket over your head for a few minutes every 4 times a game and missing out on key moments of the match if you're sat in the stadium. So yeah, it's absolutely not good enough. And it's not a surprise that a lot of overseas fans choose not to pay the money for Celtic TV and use a Fire Stick or whatever else if you can't get the product to the level it should be at. So yeah.
So apparently Hearts TV was up and running. So
if it's the other thing as well, if it's a Sky Sports game, right? You're watching it in Celtic TV, cuts out. You have to switch over to Sky Sports, right? You have to switch over to whatever IPTV and watch Sky Sports because it's just not working, and it happens like every second game, like literally. I'm not even exaggerating.
And I'm not 100% sold on Cillian Sheridan as a commentator either. But anyway, I'll reserve judgment on that for another day. Who's the snitch? He's saying, "Gentlemen, hail to you, sir." And then John Clements with a comment here just saying, Japanese players only go back on the Friday. Long haul flights take their toll. Yes, as someone who long hauled it from Perth to Italy and back again, 26 hours in transit, I can definitely say it does take its toll, because I certainly wouldn't be kicking a football at the end of that journey. But here we are. I'm not a professional footballer. Stats-wise, dominant performance against the Huns. It was, I saw that your man Clement was sort of clinging to stats to try and justify his existence. And we had 4 shots on target. They had 4 shots on target, and the possession was pretty balanced. But the game was just, stats did not justify that game whatsoever. But in this situation, you kind of feel the stats tell the story. 75% possession. We had 6 shots on target to their 3, and then 5 corner kicks to 3. We were offside 7 times, one of which reminded me to talk about the Palmer one. Well, obviously, we'll touch on that near the end, but that was shocking. And we forced 4 saves to their 3. Another clean sheet. That's equaling the records of Willie Maley back in the early 1900s. 5 wins and 5 clean sheets at the start of the season. Obviously, got the ability to maybe go past that next game. Sean, do the stats in this case, particularly in the first half, do they sort of stack up, or do you sort of feel that we were, like you say, a bit off it, not really expecting Hearts to be so dogged, given that they've been so dog crap this season so far?
Well, you have that Kyogo chance that may or may not have been offside anyway in the wash.
Yeah.
And then you have the Engels one that hits the post. And I don't know that there was the kind of Hitati back, was it Kuhn? I can't remember, Hitati or Kuhn, try to pick up the back post one as well. That was blocked. And if, if any of those go in, it's game script, right? You know, like you can talk about stats all you want, but stats get changed by game script. Like if you're talking about the Sevco game, for example, cool, you had almost equal possession, you had shots on target, but they were shots on target when you were chucking men forward, chasing the game at the end. When we were trying to consolidate, it skews it. It doesn't really reflect how the game played out. And I think the Celtic, as much whatever the stats say around the Celtic Hearts game, I think what the eye test is more relevant here, and that's we looked a bit slacker, but less intense. We were just not quite as sharp as we have been in recent weeks. There was less flow to the play, and just less intensity. Like I think the phrase we use down here, or we probably don't, but the Aussie Rules commentator certainly uses the term they use is desperation, and the Celtic players didn't look like they were playing like they were desperate to win. They just looked like they were expecting to win, and they had to make that happen in the second half because they certainly weren't in the first.
Strange the Dr. Paul saying here that he felt it was a bit of both, a bit that we were a bit off it, and then Hearts had 2 weeks of anti-football drilled into them by Stephen Naismith, who you got to feel is probably starting to get on a wee sugary peg in terms of his burgeoning managerial career, because I mean, I don't think the Hearts board would be expecting to move bottom of the league after 6 games into the season, 7 games into the season. Five.
Five league games.
We've just won 5 league games without conceding.
Sorry,
so,
yes,
5.
My bad. Yeah, 5. Yeah, okay. So I'm wishing my life away here.
We've had a cup game as well, so 6 in total.
The cup games throw me off, so I'm assuming they didn't win that either.
Yeah, and the wet farts got knocked out by Falkirk.
That's right. Yes, that's right. So yeah, so that's where
we played next week, and I think we were on like a 30-something unbeaten run domestically. I can't remember. I didn't check that one, but they're in some crazy run domestically. The last time I checked.
Interesting. Paul, how do you feel about it? Do you feel we were slightly off it, or do you feel that it was just if one of those early chances go in, it's just plain sailing and away we go, and it would have been rinse and repeat from the last 4 games at the start of the season?
To some degree, I think Hearts probably the most well-drilled, organised low block side we've played this season. It's horrible to watch. It was pretty much 2 banks of 5 at times, definitely 4-5 with 1 out ball in Vargas. For most of that first half, their only plan was to hump it long and hope Vargas could run away from somebody, and he couldn't. And well, he could have if he got anywhere near it, but for the most part, any ball knocked long was nowhere near him. Carter Vickers and Scales both marshalled him and Shanklin really well. And so no sooner was the ball humped forward than we had it back and we were recycling it. I agree with Sean to some degree. I think we lacked a little bit of intensity, but I to your point, I think if Kyogo scores that chance, and yeah, look, I think he's onside. But yeah, obviously it would have got reviewed by VAR. If Kyogo scores that chance, I don't think they changed the game plan particularly, but I think it gets the crowd up, it gets the team up, and it just starts to zip a little bit more. And I think we would have probably tucked away more chances. There was obviously the Engels one hit the post, carved out of nothing almost. Lovely little flick by Kuhn around the corner. I think from an Ali Johnson throw in. Maeda and Taylor were doing some great work down the left and there were balls flashing across the box and just sometimes not people not gambling in there. I thought generally we had enough in that first half to go in 1 or 2 up, to be honest. It didn't quite happen. There was a little late flurry where Kyogo should have scored. Good save by Gordon. And then, Kuhn's following in at the back post and 2 defenders throw themselves in and managed to block that away for a corner. I thought Kuhn was great. He had a brilliant first half as well. He looked threatening. I think there was a bit there to be pleased about. I think it was just one of those, like the last ball in, the final ball and the final finish just wasn't there, and left us feeling a wee bit frustrated. But I think there was enough it probably wasn't as absolutely scintillating stuff as we have played against other teams, but we probably played against teams that came out and had a bit more of a go, to be honest, and or weren't as well drilled in terms of sitting quite as deep with as many players behind the ball. So there's a mixed bag there. But I do think if any one of those earlier chances had gone in, then it would have looked as comfortable as I kind of felt it was without actually the score being how we wanted it to be.
I felt that Engels sort of slotted into that sort of number 10 spot quite smoothly. He didn't really look like a player who has come into that team being like the sort of new player, as it were. Like, he was making similar Matt O'Reilly type runs, those sort of underlaps. The case in point being the one he rattles off the post. I mean, that would have been a fantastic goal. And like you say, Paul, it is kind of a nothing, but then Alan Johnson has the foresight to throw the ball in straight away. It's a great flick. I thought it was a tatty, but from Kroon, great flick. And yeah, he just had hit it first time. And I mean, he's hit it sweet. He's just, slightly off target. But that would have been some goal had that gone in, and that really would have announced his Celtic career sort of kickstart and sort of thing. But definitely the signs are there. He looks strong. I may as well talk about it now, but he'd absolutely clattered by Penrice. And, Kuhn picks up a booking for virtually nothing, and he, gets an early challenge away, Penrice, and gets away with it, and then, clatters Engels with that one. I guess he's his booking, but, it was a nasty challenge, but, he rode it well, and that's the important thing. Like, he didn't pick up any sort of, injury from it, thankfully, but, that was, he had form and had a couple, and then, obviously in the second half he has another role to play, but we'll touch on that when we get into the second half. But I felt down both flanks we looked good. Taylor and Maeda were linking up well. Kuhn and Johnson, I thought, were exceptionally, they've got that overlap working now. So that's definitely working really, really well. And the other thing I did feel, and I don't know whether it was just me, just because I haven't watched Celtic live in a few weeks, but I kind of felt that Carter Vickers and Stales, to their fairness, were trying to move the ball a bit quicker. Like, they were feeding the wide players quicker, not dilly-dallying and taking as many touches as maybe we've seen at the start of the season. So I don't know whether that was Hearts being very narrow and forcing it out wide, but I kind of felt that, we were getting joy getting the ball out there, and I felt like it was a matter of time that we were going to score. But obviously we get to the half-hour mark, and Hearts basically was it a free kick into the box, or again
a free kick on the left that came in and then was, I think, sort of it scrambled for a corner. I think it ended up with Shankland, and it deflected off Engels and went, and Schmeichel couldn't get in. It went for a corner, and then the corner leads to the penalty incident.
Yeah, so I'll get your take on it in a second, Sean. But obviously, Shankland gets a header away. Stales is maybe he's close to Shankland, but he's probably not touch tight to Shankland. But his arm is raised. Balls struck him on the arm. And then Celtic TV cuts out. And I'm madly refreshing Twitter, trying to find out if a goal has been scored or not, because everyone in the group chat was affected by the same outage. So the longer it was going on without an update made me think that VAR was getting involved, because my initial reaction, and I only saw it the once, I didn't get any replays, was that, yes, it definitely struck him somewhere on the arm. I felt that he was far too close for it to be a handball. To that, my understanding was the rule is that there's got to be a wee bit of distance, that you can't react if you're literally you can touch the guy sort of thing. So wasn't sure about his arm position, but I kind of felt there's a possibility that in this year's rule book that wasn't a handball. But Sean, obviously, you're going to give us the actual definition here, and obviously, upon watching the replay, I can understand why it wasn't a penalty. But how were you in the same boat as me, like watching it live and it cut out, or?
Yes, I was. So I didn't really get caught up on it until half time when they went over it again. Very frustrating, Celtic TV, and then yeah, so to give you the referee's rule perspective, I understand why it's frustrating. It was good that the SFA did release that VAR video. There were a couple of problems with it, but it was actually broadly pretty good. For him to come out and say stuff like the Kyogo one should have been a penalty. It was well done. That should have been a penalty. And we all thought that, and we were all very perplexed by it. So for him to come out and just say a mistake has been made, fine, good, well done. We're happy that you've said that. We understand that was a mistake. Everyone knows it's a mistake. Cool, we'll move on. And so this one is perplexing for people as well, because again, if they don't have the same kind of language and assessment criteria is probably a good term that the referees use. What's the assessment criteria for what's a handball offence? So one of the assessment criteria is the ball, the distances travelled, and you can see that there's a difference between those two incidents, and that the Hearts defender's a good distance, 5-6 meters maybe away from is it Kuhn hits across.
Yeah.
So he's got a good distance. That and what kind of comes in after that as well is he got time to react. So obviously being further away, you've got more time to react. You've got awareness of where the ball is even before it's hit, whereas Scales had no awareness of where the ball was. Stephen Naismith came out and said, if you give one of those, you have to give the other. Not true, Stephen Naismith. A better comparison would be for the Scales handball. A better comparison would be the Iwata and Bernabe ones that were given before. The two where they were not looking, where the ball's behind them and they're looking in the other direction and it hits them on the arm. That they're better comparisons to the Liam Scales one, because Liam Scales is not aware of where the ball is. Whereas the one that the Penrice arm, that is the kind of example that gets shown at a referee's training seminar, where they're like, this one is a handball because his arm is away from his body, it's unnatural position, it's making him bigger. He's got time to, he knows where the ball is, he knows there's a risk this is going to hit his hand, and therefore he is, by making himself bigger, is putting himself at that risk. Whereas Scales is completely unaware. And like from the replays I saw, they said it hit him on his shoulder. I couldn't quite see that clearly, to be honest, from the Celtic TV potato camera replays. But yeah, so it all, like, as per what referees used to assess a handball, those were correct decisions based on the current iteration of the handball rule. Whether people think that's correct or not is a different argument, but those were correct by the rule, by the law's decisions.
I think there was far too many handballs issued last season. There was too many penalties for handballs like the Liam Scales one that clearly there's nothing you could do about that, and it's hit him that high up the arm that it shouldn't be a penalty. So I kind of feel that some sort of common sense to a degree, and obviously you'll need to assess this over the course of an entire season, but so far it seems that it's a little bit more pragmatic in its approach. Now, my only concern is that referee got both those decisions wrong, and it took VAR to fix it. But I mean, he got the right decision in the end, because that VAR check took forever. Because, like I said, as long as Celtic TV was down, that decision was still getting looked at. So I didn't miss anything, but like obviously it was just frustrating not knowing what was happening. Paul.
So just before you move on there, can I just address the point you made? When something's not clear and obvious, this is actually more of a concern, I guess, is if something's not clear and obvious, then it's pretty much by definition re-refereeing. So you might argue that the Liam Scales one was a re-refereeing of it because it's not as clear and as obvious as the Hearts one. So you could certainly make that point. I would ask another.
The only thing though is that the only thing I would say this, Sean, is the delay there because the technology is not good enough to give a clear.
That's part of the reason. Yeah, that's definitely part of the reason.
Yeah,
and the other reason is it's just a hard one. Like, it's hard to see. It's fast. And as you said, if you double the frame rate of the camera, sure, you'll get a better view because the ball's moving fast, right? Like everything's happening fast. You get blur. You get there's big jumps. The ball can move like 30 centimeters between each frame, right? It's not like, it's hard to do. And here's a question for you that kind of pads the narrative. Does that Liam Scales one stand as a penalty if Rodgers doesn't come out and call Beaton incompetent after the Iwata one and make it a case in front of the SFA? Does that penalty stand on Saturday if Rodgers hadn't come out last year and called Beaton incompetent?
Go on, Paul.
Because remember, I was saying it's the same realm. Those two decisions.
Well, it is, but I think there's a broader discussion. Like you could say, maybe him doing that leads to a broader review of how they look at things. But to Anthony's point, is there's clearly been a decision this year to try and do less re-refereeing. Last season, and I've made this point, elsewhere, is last season referees pretty much weren't they weren't overly bothered about making the call on the pitch, because the way VAR was working was they had that safety net that if they got it wrong, VAR was in the rear, they were re-refereeing everything. So refs were really quite hands-off last season, I thought, and VAR pretty much made most of the big decisions. Whereas this season, there clearly seems to be a change in directive that VAR will only get involved where there is something that's really obvious and that they've got wrong. Now, I think that's the better way around to use VAR, but I think that's quite a big shift for referees to go from one season to the next. So they've all got used to going, well, I can kind of let things fly, and if I get it wrong, then I've got backup. Whereas now it seemed like as it should be, the responsibility is predominantly with the on-pitch referee, and VAR will only get it wrong. Will get involved if you've made an absolute clanger there. You need to fix that up. And I think that the scales one, you're right, Sean, it happens fast, but one of the reasons it happens so fast is because they're so close together, which is one of the points about how the distance the ball travels. So on first view live, I can see why the ref's given it, because I thought it hit him somewhere up here, like on the forearm. That's where it looked like in the first picture. Same. Okay, it's a 2D picture. He's in the ground. He's seen it 3D, but obviously it is moving fast. It's only when you see some of those later different angle replays, it could be as high as the top of the shoulder. It's certainly just on the end of the shoulder. Definitely. And that, I think, Sean, you'll confirm, is that's deemed too high to be considered a handball anyway. So between the height of the balls hit him up the arm and the speed it's moved at, and the fact he's not, the part of the body it hits isn't in an unnatural position, and he's got no idea it's happening to him because he's turning around quickly, I think it's absolutely the right decision. If Mikey Stewart thinks it's the right decision against Hearts, then against Hearts, you're pretty confident that they've come to the right decision. And from what I can gather, I've not seen sports scene and the like, but from what I can gather from reading up on it, is pretty much everyone is in agreement that
Stephen Craig begrudgingly agreed. Stephen Craig agreed.
For Stephen Naismith.
Stephen Naismith, well, you would expect that, right? And I hear Craig said Scales can consider himself lucky and Penrice can consider himself unlucky, even though both were the right decisions. So yeah, that's the old
that's one foot in each camp.
That's the tinted specs for sure. But yeah, I think ultimately the right decision was reached at in both cases. But to your point, Anthony, it's a concern when the on-pitch referee gets both wrong. And this has been one of the problems that we've talked about with VAR, even this season, on the odd occasion where VAR we think VAR should have been involved and it hasn't got involved to the level it should have done. The feeling is that the referee's they've got it wrong. Look, I think if ultimately we should be praising VAR in this scenario. We can slag off the referee because he's got two wrong, but we should be praising VAR because they've stepped in and corrected two decisions that otherwise would have been incorrect on the pitch, and it just so happens that both benefited Celtic, so that was extra good. And in amongst all the other terrible stuff about Celtic TV, I will just like to make a little point on Paul Cudahy's commentary, because after the penalty was overturned, we broke really quickly up the park, and Dyson Meyer went on one of his crazy runs where I don't think he even knows what's going to happen, and he burst into the box, and then there was a last-ditch challenge, and he sort of got away. And I was expecting Cudahy to say, he started to say, it was. I was going to say it would be great if, and I thought he was going to say if we scored straight after that. And he didn't. He said it would be great if we got a penalty right after that. And I was just thinking that was classic shit, like sort of shit posting. I was enjoying it. Yeah, he's just basically a fan with a microphone, but occasionally comes out with a gem, and I enjoyed that one.
I thought he was going to say something like kamikaze or something. Don't say that. No.
Don't say that. No.
Don't say that. But no, that was I think that was that Maisie run. And then was that the one? There was one we made. He was offside, and it was one that bobbled up and it cleared off the line. Well, that was onside. It was definitely
really
one that was
early.
offside as
Yeah,
well.
no, he was offside. Eventually he was allowed it. They allowed it to run through, but after it was clear. So ball over the top. Maeda skipped through, flicked it over the keeper. Didn't have the legs to go in, and the defender got back. And so that was like really early on. That was like 3-4 minutes in. But yeah, after all of that, and it was clear it was eventually pulled back for a free kick. The flag was up, but that was the first what we thought. But I think that was a sort of sign of where we did have success. Like Taylor was looking for the slide in underneath, like between the fullback and the centre backs, or the wing back and the right sided centre back. He was looking for that all day, and he was also, when he was deeper, he was looking for the lob over the top to put Maeda in. I thought the Hearts was he the fullback or was he the right sided centre back? Taylor. I thought he had actually a really good.
He had a really good
game up against Maeda because that
he matched him for pace.
Yeah. And he did tackle like really early on where it was, if he mistimes that, it's a guaranteed penalty, and he manages to he just gets the toe in and then he follows through and he takes the man, but he gets the ball first. It's a really good sliding tackle in the area. So yeah, fine margins. And yeah, they managed to frustrate, and we didn't quite sort of get final balls and final finishes in to make it easier, like I said.
So I kind of felt that the missed penalty, or the penalty that Hearts thought they were getting, they didn't get. It probably gave them a wee shot in the arm for about 5 minutes where they kind of had a wee bit of possession. I'm not that it really came to anything that I can remember, but they sort of felt that they were put us under a little bit more pressure than that they had the whole first half. And then obviously we had those.
I think they just played that. They just got themselves out and played up a little bit higher, and they won the ball in sort of scrambles. They won the ball sort of closer to the halfway line as opposed to being on their own 18-yard box. And you're right, in that 5-minute spell, it wasn't really possession. It was more that they won a few set pieces, and they had a long throw, and they had a corner and a free kick and the like. So I thought Scales stood up really well at that period. So there was anything that came in the box, he was usually got his head on it. And yeah, they sort of had a little flurry, but nothing. Like the closest they came is probably the Shanklin shot from 30 yards on the angle. Yeah, and a pretty comfortable routine save for Kasper Schmeichel.
The thing I liked about that though is that Schmeichel just caught it like dead. You know what I mean? Because I've seen keepers spill those or punch those or whatever, but he just like absolutely just caught it. And I was like, oh, that's still. And it was like, it was an arsehole winder from 30 yards, but it had a bit of spin on it and a bit of pace. But he just good handling. I think there was a comment here that I just wanted to bring up, but
how good a signing he's been.
Maybe slightly facetious at the time, but how good a sign is Kasper Schmeichel be? What a signing! But 5 clean sheets, like you can't.
Yes, but I don't think that's a facetious comment. I think he's been great. Like, and he had one decent save second half when that ball got flashed across. But I thought his distribution was great. Like, throws out, rolls out fast. Getting the ball moving. There was a cracker second half where he launched it sort of across the halfway line to set Maeda away, and he just got himself caught. And I felt like that happened quite a bit. And obviously he's another player who's travelled around the world and back. I felt like him and Hatate, who probably did amongst the most travelling, they got caught a little bit occasionally. Like they're just a little bit not quite as sharp as you would expect. So the long haul probably has taken its toll there. But yeah, I just think his distribution is great. His sharpness is there. He's clearly a leader. He was involved with Kalmack and the referee chat when that VAR decision was going on. You boys probably wouldn't have seen that because it cut out. But I haven't watched the first half. When I watched the first half again today, Schmeichel, even though it's only supposed to be the captains that are having chat to the referee, obviously he got an allowance to be there and be involved in that chat as well.
Sean, second half, we come out, the traps, a wee bit sharper. Obviously, ball gets fed out to Kuhn early doors at the 52nd minute, and then that's what leads to the penalty. Penrice sticking his arm out. Interesting. Hatate gets handed the ball, and then Callum McGregor gets involved and says, no, Arnie Engels is going to hit the penalty. And then a bit of slagging off from Halkett and
Shankland.
Shankland. are you worth 10 million quid and fucking, pressure's on and all that sort of stuff. But cool penalty for our new signing. Like, I mean, it looked pretty comfortable, pretty routine. What are you thinking?
Yeah, it was good penalty. He does that thing that some of the top class players do nowadays, where they look to see where the goalkeeper's going to go. I don't know how they do it. I would probably rip a hamstring off my leg if I tried to do it. I don't know how you adjust in the final step of your run to change which side you're putting a penalty to. But players like Bruno Fernandes do it, and Arne Engels did it at the weekend there, where he adjusts late to what Craig Gordon is doing. For Hatate handing over the penalty, I don't know if that was a was that a Callum McGregor decision? Was Callum McGregor seen that Hatate was having a poor game? His head might have been down. I'm not sure, because Hatate was quite slack with his passing. He wasn't really in the game as he has been in recent weeks. So I wonder if that was part of the decision. But yeah, it was a really good penalty. I was happy with it. Bottom corner. I think even if Gordon does go right away, he's struggling to save that anyway, because it was nestled right in the side netting. And we've all seen the training ground footage at Celtic Park, where they Lennoxtown rather, where they have the kind of targets for taking penalties, and that's one of the ones is our top corner, bottom corner. Keeper can't really get to it if it's in there, no matter what. Whether you give him the eyes or the stutter or whatever, it's just a good penalty, right?
No, I agree. And I think Hatate's penalties in the last season were a bit hit and miss. Like, he got a couple there.
Always he's hit the post a few times, hasn't he? I think twice, because he hit the post in Sydney, right?
There was one that squeezed just under the keeper. He scored it, but it was like it was not from memory serves, it wasn't a convincing penalty. And I'm going like, I mean, I can understand maybe why he's been relieved of those duties, but if Engels is hitting the free kicks in the corners, then that's the reason he's obviously a comfortable dead ball striker of the ball. Paul, have we found another penalty taker? Have we now got a couple of penalty takers in the team? Or
well, Ida has been taking them, hasn't he? And then he missed one.
He wasn't on at the time.
And he wasn't on. So ultimately, you want a regular penalty taker, and it should be somebody that's playing the majority of the minutes. So I was really pleased to see him get handed it, and he took it perfectly. I think he almost gave him, Sean's right, there's a stutter, he'd do it if a change, and he was giving him the eyes, so he was giving him the full set. And it's a cracking penalty, and it sort of summed up his performance. I thought we haven't really touched on him too much in detail. I thought he had a really, really good game. I just like the way he plays with his head up. He's always looking for it on the half turn. He's always making himself available. Even when he's got players around him, he's asking for the ball. So he's confident enough to take it under semi-pressure and move it on. His movement was great. He was picking it up deep. He was finding runs in behind the defence. I just think he looks like a cracking player. He's athletic. I think he's one of those. If he kicks on from here, he's one that we might struggle to hold on to for more than a season or two. But I suppose that's a decent problem to have, because if we're paying 11 for him, he's going to be going for a hefty amount. So we don't really want to be selling our brand new players before they're even barely through the doors. But I thought it was a very competent and exciting performance for his first start in a hoop shirt. So long may it continue. And the finish just put the tin on it.
We were all saying when O'Reilly left, we can't replace O'Reilly. Well, if this guy can add, he is already better than O'Reilly was when O'Reilly came in the door. Obviously, he doesn't look immediately as good as O'Reilly was when O'Reilly left, but he's got time on his side. So if he can work on his game this time next year, you're right, he could be quite the player, because he's already came in and made an impact. Just turned 21 this week, so lots to see there, hopefully. I seen the comments there. Robin Lowe said something about picking the players who take the pens before the game, but Hatate was, Rogers confirmed that Hatate was the nominated penalty taker, and that the players have basically defied him. So, but that said, Engels was the number 2 nominated, and it was Hatate and Engels had worked on the penalties with Jack Lyons, who's the kind of Brendan Rodgers statistics guy. So they'd worked on the penalty statistics with him the day before. So they two were the 1 and 2, but Hatate was nominated number 1 officially.
Well, I saw
To be
them say,
fair,
like,
so last thing I'm saying that is like Hatate took it in good part. He didn't, respectful, handed it over, didn't look too disappointed, and ultimately ends up in the back of the net. So that's a little
I was just trying to say, Engels gave Hatate a hug on the halfway line as well when he was getting a drink after he scored. So all good. So no harm done there. Pete McGee just saying that maybe the international break broke our rhythm a little bit, but we're hopefully back on song on Wednesday night. Yes, we'll touch on that briefly before we wrap up. Substitutes came on between the 66th and 80th minutes. So we had starting off Bernardo on for Hatate, Forrest on for Kuhn. Ida comes on for Kyogo at 72 minutes, and then later on at 80 minutes we had Luke McCowan and Lewis Palmer replacing Daisen Maeda and Arnie Engels. I guess in that sort of final phase, there was a wee bit of a flurry from Hearts. They had a wee bit of pressure. I felt we dealt with it pretty well. I remember Stales getting on the end of a couple of headers and clearances. Quite sort of brave. There was one he threw himself at it. I went, oh, that's reminds me of a certain Carl Starfelt getting his napper on that. So as much as it was 1-0 and, obviously 1-0 was a dangerous scoreline, that old cliche. And I agree with Paul. I didn't really feel that we were in any great danger. I didn't really feel that Hearts really offered much. I mean, yes, they had that chance where the guy should have done better and Schmeichel pulls a good save. But apart from that, they kind of didn't really create all that much. It was a lot of huff and puff. And you can see the tactics were just to keep it tight, keep it 0 each, nothing each, or 1-0 down and hopefully try and jag something late. But it's been a long old season for them. If that's the best that they can come up with, and there's a bit of criticism. I think the Daily Record was running a thing saying how much time has Stephen Naismith got, and Mikey Stewart, dying the Will Hart supporter, and he's saying, like what they do with Jan Danda, who came off the bench, and these attacking type players, Blair Spittle, who are playing very deep, and it's sort of like, well, it just kind of reeks of a manager. Maybe doesn't really know how he set his team up with the players that he's got, but I have not that much sympathy for Stephen Naismith. But the only thing I will say is that after the match he did was quite in praise of Brendan Rodgers, who had time for him and answered a few of his coaching questions. So, not the usual Naismith vitriol that you'd maybe expect. So you never know.
They were in quite a deep conversation just right on the kickoff. Like before the game kicked off, they were having quite a deep discussion, and I thought that was interesting right before the game even started. So yeah, I wasn't aware of the positive commentary from him, but
he was also he was really caveating it as well, though, and just being like, "Yeah, every manager in the league is helping me. Like Rodgers is really helping me, but so is every manager in the league." He didn't name drop anyone else. Like he's just, everyone, not just Celtic manager, every other manager, probably managers of other teams.
He needs help. He clearly needs help. But anyway, but I suppose the two main chances at the end of the match were obviously Adam Ida's goal. We took it really well, and obviously it was chalked offside because, like I said, Lewis Palmer was very lazy and not getting back, so that was slack, and that might hurt him getting a start anytime soon. It was a well-worked goal, but he had obviously all the time in the world to get back on side, and he wasn't. So that was disappointing, and especially for Ida, you want him to get some goals, get a bit of confidence going. And then obviously Luke McCowan, our new Celtic supporter, playing for his boyhood club. I don't think Craig Gordon will want to look at the highlights reel on that one anytime soon. He made a bit of an absolute mess of the save, but you can't fault Luke for getting enough on it and scoring his first goal in front of in Parkhead. So happy days. So.
And what is a very tangible reflection of the successful transfer window? Do you see Odin Holm scoring that goal, even being in that position to take that shot if he's the midfielder coming on, which was the case at the start of the season before we signed Luke McCowan?
Different parts of the career, though, Sean, aren't they? Because like Luke McCowan,
100%. Odin Holm at 26 is probably going to be better, but you want to win games this season.
Look. I think Odin Holm will get opportunities here and there because obviously we're assuming that we're not going to get any injuries because your four midfielders for three positions are obviously McGregor, Arnie, Hatate, and Bernardo. So, I mean, any combination of those three you'd be happy with in that midfield. So if you're missing one of those players, that's still your starting three, right? So then after that, what have you got after that? Then you're looking at the likes of Odin Holm, McCowan. I mean, who else is left? Who else have we still got in the team? Because we got rid of Awata, he's away. So
James McCarthy.
that's it.
I thought we paid his contract. I don't know. Like, Luke Shaw's still kicking around, I think.
Is he?
I think.
Yeah.
I think so. I think he's in his final year of his deal.
Yes.
I think it's those five, and now Odin Thiago Holm has dropped to 5 out of. So he's only on
6. He'd be 6, right?
Sorry,
Bernardo McCowan were 4 and 5 at the weekend.
Yeah. So it'd be 6. Yeah.
So yes, 6. So we got 6 for 3. So I think Holmes a player, but he's not going to progress kicking around as the 6th choice midfielder. But the manager probably wants 6, unfortunately. And I really think the 6th should be a youth player, and Holmes should go out on loan to get game time, because I think there's a player there. He's another one that plays head up football, likes the ball in the half turn, is neat and tidy, but he's really going to have to play more games to kick on. And he's not going to do that if he's sitting around barely making our bench.
Looking at it, Summers and Kwon would be 7 and 8, and they're both on loan.
Yeah, I was just trying to say, I mean, whether you maybe if we get to the halfway mark in the season with no major injuries, maybe you look at loaning Holm out for the second half of the season.
I think that's a good idea. But because some of the incomings were so late, there was no opportunity to get him. I think if McCowan and Engels are in the building a week earlier, and this is another sort of minor criticism about the work that we've done. If they're in the building a week earlier, you could probably let Holm go out on loan. And if you were, you'd be putting him out to, for me, you'd put him out to another Premier League team or a Championship team and get him. I mean, Championship in England as opposed to Scotland, or another Premier League team, and get game time, and then you see where he's at that point. But obviously, that's a January decision now, I would say.
Yeah, well, like I said, I think it depends on how we're traveling injury-wise coming into the January window. And if we are riding injury-free, then I think that's definitely something that they should look at. But the other thing you've got to bear in mind is up until now, we've played 1 game a week, and we're now going to come into a run of 2 games a week. So this is where the games come thick and fast, that horrible expression that is used all the time. So like I said, it'll be interesting to see how we manage that as a squad, and hopefully, like I said, attrition doesn't take its toll. But like I said, as the parts get wetter and heavier and everything else happens, there's always that possibility. So we'll wait and see. We're not wishing injury on anyone, but I kind of feel comfortable that we've got that 4 or 5 midfield players that can interlock or interchange, and we're not seeing a massive drop off in quality, which is good. So that's what you want, and that's kind of what we've managed to achieve. And the other thing is we haven't seen the left back we've got on loan yet either. He's still sort of waiting in the wings, as it were. So so it'll be interesting to see when he gets unleashed.
And trusty, and as that Scales, it's not a secret. I was critical of Scales, and we should. I think if we want to progress, we should be looking at somebody better than him or with a higher ceiling as a first pick. But he's lifted his game, and that shows you if you bring in proper competition, then look at, and Taylor started the season like a steam train as well. So you bring depth, you force people to play for their places, and lo and behold, the performance levels goes up. Who would have thought it? So those guys will have to come and fight for their place, and it's good that depth is there. So I can't see much of a difference in terms of starting lineup come Wednesday.
Yeah, well, I mean, we might as well. I mean, obviously, is there anything else that we wanted to touch on in the match? So I think we've managed to cover all the major talking points. I think there's anything else that we wanted to discuss. We may as well round off
first Saturday game of the week of the season.
Oh well, this is true. I must admit that was a novelty, Sean, and 10 o'clock kickoff, so reasonable hour, so not too bad.
Middle of September to get our first Saturday game.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, our anyway. Our Anyway, so I guess we'll do our man of the matches, and then we can just quickly touch on Slovan Bratislava, who are our first Champions League game, and then we'll do our usual reviews and call it a night. So, Sean, man of the match.
Callum McGregor for me. I know that the stadium and the TV gave it to Engels, but my guy, you know how I feel. You guys have been doing this with me a long time. I don't give the one up for scoring a goal that everyone else tends to do. So for me, Callum McGregor, particularly in the second half, he was. But when we were looking about ragged at times, he was the one that was really in there, putting his foot on it, marshalling things, keeping us steady at times. Callum McGregor for me.
Paul?
He had a good game, and you're right. Second half, when there was a little bit of pressure, he was the one really getting back and covering and breaking things up. But not for his goal, although that put the tin lid on it. I thought Engels had a really, really strong first half and a solid second half and a goal to put the tin lid on it. So I'm quite happy to make him man of the match as well.
See, I've got the choice here to either make it a three-way split decision, or I can agree with one of you two. I'm ready to go out on a limb here. I'm actually going Nicholas Kuhn. I actually thought he had a really good game, and I suppose the only detractor is that he did get taken off, but it was his assist that led to the goal because he crossed it and it was a handball. So there's that, but I just felt he's diners in the first half. He was unlucky not to score. And the feed a ball for Engels. He's overlapping with AJ. I just thought he started the season really well as well, and he's like a new signing because the last 6 months of last season you never really saw the best of him. He had his health issues and there's reasons for that, but he's had a pre-season. He's definitely looking much more the player that obviously he was scouted for, and we thought it was. So I think that might be a record. I don't think we've been on here and all three of us have had different players. So there you go. So there's the first time
maybe once, but
once or twice, but it doesn't happen very often.
I think Kuhn's a good shout. He was definitely in my sort of 2 or 3 to choose from. There was a period in the first half where he, Hatate, Engels, there was back heels and flicks going everywhere, and they didn't quite come off to create a goal scoring chance. But I thought he looked really lively. If he gets the decision making sharper, he's going to be a phenomenal player. One of the things I did pick up on is they've started using him as the furthest up player when we defend a corner. So that's obviously a pace-based thing. Used to be typically it would be Maeda, but he's obviously sitting a little bit deeper for the first break and sprint. And Kuhn is playing with the highest player up to sort of potentially run in behind if we can make a quick transition from a corner. So he's been a real threat, and he was a bit unlucky not to score when he came in on that rebound from Gordon's save. Gordon made 2 or 3 good saves in that first half as well. So. And
Kyogo clattered him in the first 5 minutes, but anyway, you don't worry.
I don't think there was much contact there. Do you think there was much contact there? I don't know.
Not really. But,
I thought it was more Gordon's follow through that connected with Kyogo. I don't think he really caught him.
Being facetious. Slovan Bratislava currently paying $8.50 the win against Celtic. Celtic are $1.38 with bet.
That's good value, I think. That's pretty good
value. The draw is $5. Bet responsibly, gamble responsibly, people. I'm not condoning gambling, but just thought that was interesting. Vladimir Weiss, who I believe he played for Oko back on loan. Is that the same guy? Yeah,
it is. He's manager, captain.
Yeah, I saw that.
Attacking midfielder, basically doing it all. Wow. They've had a reasonably solid start to the season. I think they've lost 1 game and won 5 or 6.
I think they've won 4 wins and a draw at the last 5 games, so they're looking all right. Oh, sorry, 1 loss. You're right. 4 wins, 1 loss, and that was 3-2. They lost. I think no, they won 3-2.
Sean, what's your thoughts on the game Wednesday?
I agree with you. $8.50 just doesn't sound right for Celtic playing a game in Europe, does it? In paper, it should be our best chance of winning a game. The Bratislava do seem to be slightly off form. I just have no faith. to be honest, and in Celtic in Europe, and we should be winning this game. We should be winning it comfortably. I just don't have the faith. To be honest, it's hard. It's hard for me to predict a win. It really is. Even though all sensible people that are not emotionally scarred are saying we should be winning, including the bookmakers, I struggle to predict it. I'm going to have to go one each. Heartbreak, guys. I just too scarred. Too scarred.
I'm ready to go whether I win 2-0. I think the prediction will be Bernardo will come back in the starting lineup in place of Hatate. Rodgers will go with more control. He'll want Arnie, Bernardo, and Calmac. The rest of the team, if fit, I think will probably just about stay as is. I can't see him making any other real major changes. I can't see him putting Trusty in for his first game. I can't see him putting the left back in for his first game. So there's every likelihood you might see one of them on the weekend, like when we've got our next fixture on the weekend. But I think that's how you'll go, and I think we'll win. We've nothing to fear. And we've got Kasper Schmeichel in goals, so we've paid him some money to actually hopefully make some saves. So I just think that we're in a shout here, and if we're going to do anything in this tournament, we have to win this game. And it sounds stupid; it's our first game, blah blah blah. But you're not going to get a better opportunity to get 3 points on the board. And I think we've got that game. The next game's doable. Then after that, we've got
the next three are prick hard. We've got
next three. I think
Atalanta, Dortmund, and Leipzig. Yeah.
All right. So sorry, I thought we had two and then it got hard. But
I think we've got Dortmund away, Atalanta away, and then Leipzig at home. So
that's right.
You basically write off potentially all 9 of those points. That's the reason why you've got to win that first game, because you need some points on the board. Anything you get out, anything you get out of those next 3 games is a bonus. Yeah. And then you're looking to win your other home games. After the Leipzig game, you want to be having a crack at those. And then anything else on the road to the bonus. But if you win the 3 home games against the 3 teams that are closer to us in quality, then a draw on the road as well, as that's probably you're through. So it sounds easy if you say it quick, but we're more scarred and more PTSD than the bookmakers. It's rare that the bookies are wrong, so let's hope that they're right again. All the stats guys say that Slovan Bratislava are the weakest team in the tournament.
Still have to beat them.
We still have to beat them, but did we share the? I think one of the guys, maybe Willie, had shared it on the group chat. That was it Opta article that basically said Celtic have got the easiest draw in the group stage.
Yeah,
statistically, we've got the easiest draw comparatively, which kind of did feel a bit like that, just in terms of the home and away is how they were drawn. But I fancy us to get the win, even though there's no huge confidence. As Sean says, there's too much history of shooting ourselves in the foot, but hopefully, and it's a kind of newish group of players to some degree, so hopefully they're not all as scarred by that. But I agree with you, Anthony. I think Bernardo will come in because he played him regularly in the Champions League last year for his engine and his technical stuff, and Hatate did look a bit off it, so I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Bernardo come back in for that.
One of the things I love about going on a holiday is it gives me an opportunity to sit and watch a whole load of movies and watch a whole load of telly, because you're on a plane for 16 hours, 17 hours, however many hours it is. So I got to watch Dune Part 2. Thought it was good. I was saying it was one of the best science fiction movies ever. I've not gone that far out on a limb, but I did enjoy it. There's a lot of Zendaya and Timothée Chalamet just staring into the sand a lot, but still, good story and good action sequences. I watched the latest Ghostbusters movie, which got a really bad rap by the critics, but I actually enjoyed it. I thought it was actually pretty easy, fair to watch. And saying that, was on my 5th glass of wine by then. And then the other one I watched was Civil War, which is Alex Garland's, and that's something that you could easily believe could happen in America at any minute, particularly if an orange donut gets back into the White House or survives another presidential assassination attempt. In saying that apparently somebody put on Twitter today, and I assume it's true, that Donald Trump has survived 2 presidential assassination attempts and Hearts still haven't won a game since
Hearts last won a game. He's had 2 assassination attempts in his life.
So that was pretty good. I thought that was well worth a laugh.
Mhm.
But no, Kirsten Dunst, return to form for her. Like she was absolutely excellent in that film. And Wagner, I can't remember his name. The guy that played Pablo Escobar in Narcos, he's in it as well. The two of them are really good. So definitely worth a watch. Paul, what have you got for us this week?
Well, music. I've been listening to a lot of music as usual. I've got no more gigs. Got no more gigs lined up for the rest of the year, so I've got time to just go and listen to albums rather than doing prep work for gigs. I like to do my homework ahead of gigs, so I listen to the bands I'm going to go see. So yeah, quite a lot of good releases in the last few weeks. So I'm sort of catching up on a few of these. I've been listening to them for a while, but I only give one a week, so they'll be feeding them out. But yeah, fourth album from Fontaine's DC. Is called Romance. It's another cracker. Probably a bit more mainstream than some of their other stuff. So that may please some people more than others. It's probably not my favorite album of theirs, but it's still a good record. So yeah, Romance by Fontaine's DC is my album recommendation of the week.
Sean, what have you got for us, mate?
I've been enjoying Only Murders in the Building. It's have you seen it before? It's
I haven't, but that's Steve Martin Short, and
Martin Short, yeah.
Selena Gomez.
Selena Gomez, yeah. It's really catchy. You know, it's not a super serious one. It's very self-aware in that sense. Like, yeah. So it's quite good. I quite enjoy it. I'm enjoying. They're on the halfway through releasing the fourth season. Somebody mentioned something earlier that made me think of a movie I watched recently. I can't remember what it was. It triggered me, but Godzilla -1. I think that's what it's called. The prequel. Yep. Oh man, that's really good. You should watch that if you've not seen it.
I haven't, but apparently it does get a really good rap. So, Strange Love Doctor, he is recommending Alien Romulus.
My brother said that was good.
Yeah, I want to check that out as well, but I probably won't get a chance to see that at the movies before it leaves. Fantastic catching up with you both, because it feels like it's been ages since the three of us have been together on a podcast. So the last time we saw each other was in a Celtic club. So good to actually catch up in an online space and have a chat about Celtic winning yet again. Hopefully we are crowing about another Celtic victory next weekend, but we'll see what the weekend or what the week and the weekend brings. I think we've got ridiculous, if memory serves me correct. Oh no, it's not this week. Okay, it's next week. That's right. We've got Falkirk in the Cup on the weekend. 10 o'clock on a Sunday night. Fantastic if you're living in Perth.
There's one coming.
Worst if you're on the East Coast, I suppose.
Midnight if you're on the East Coast.
This St Johnstone game is a 5:30 p.m. in Scotland.
That was the one that I thought was this weekend coming, because I had a look ahead at the fixtures, and that was the one in the back of my mind that is going to be a nightmare, because that's 12:45 a.m. on a Sunday. Yeah. Not doing us any favors whatsoever. But
at least we've got a public holiday this Monday. So
that's true. I'm still ready to work though, because some of us have to keep the economy going. Anyway, on that
just
note,
you on your own.
I'll just be on my own. Yeah, pretty much. All right. Well, it's actually easy being at work than being in the garden for 2 days, put it that way. But anyway, all good. And I listened to Oasis's back catalogue, so that was nice, if nothing else. I was getting sunburnt. Guys, lovely catching up with you again. We'll be back next week to discuss the Falkirk Cup game, and obviously we'll have our say on Bratislava as well. Hopefully 6 points in the battle, 6 points in a progression to the next level of the cup. Sean, hope we'll see you again in a couple of weeks. Richard should be back next week. He's in Hobart this week, so he's having a wee holiday himself. Holidays for everybody at the moment, so all good, and all that's left to say is hail, hail.
Hail, hail.